Welcome, Dr. Elders.
Those kinds of introductions, you're supposed to just sit down. You're not supposed to say anything. And I'm not going to come all the way from Arkansas to Charleston, West Virginia, and not say anything. I'm going to say a few things. I certainly thank Honorable Carrie Webster for that very elegant introduction. She really, she didn't just get up here and read to us. She dissected it, she explained it, and she talked about it in a way that was even flattering to me. So I thank you very much. You really, and I want to thank you for all the things that you do every day for the women of West Virginia. And I think you're very proud of speaking up for you at all times. And as to my remarks, about masturbation, it was a psychiatrist that asked me, and then we talked, but I said, we were talking about the A, B, C, D of AIDS prevention. A for abstinence, and somebody was saying, well, why do we talk about, the contraceptive B? I said, the morning after pill. I said, well, A is when abstinence failed. And so A being for abstinence, B, be faithful, C, use a latex condom, and D, do other things. And one of those other things was masturbation, but I want you to know that I told them it won't make you grow crazy, it won't make hair grow on your hands, it won't make you go blind, and you won't get pregnant, and you're having sex with somebody you love. So I think that the after that, because as you said, we are all, we know that 80+% of women masturbate, 90+% of men masturbate, and it's thought that the rest lie. So these are things that go on. When I was in Washington, we spent so much time, I thought we didn't know but one A word. I thought I was supposed to be talking about access to care, and every time I would talk, we start talking about abortions. I said, well, I feel that sometimes our politicians in Washington, D.C. anyway, aborted common sense. And you know what common sense is? My grandmother taught me that common sense is that sense that we all have to keep those other 5 senses from acting a fool. So we have to make sure that we don't abort our common sense. But I want to thank you for all the work that you've done here as West Virginia Free, and as a part of your 20th anniversary to improve the health, education, and the welfare of women and children of this state. Thank you for what you've done in the past and what you continue to do each and every day to improve the reproductive rights of women. If you can't control your reproduction, you can't control your life. The health and education of any country, any state, is directly related to the health and welfare of its women. And if we don't educate and take care of our women and make sure that they can control their bodies, well, we certainly are not going to improve the health and welfare of our nation. And you can't have reproductive justice if you don't have control of your life. You've lobbied to defeat anti-choice legislation. You formed alliances with many other groups. You've gotten students involved in this community. You've lobbied for reproductive justice issues. You worked on educating our policymakers. And you know, it's hard sometimes. They aren't all like Representative Webster. Sometimes they're slow learners. And so you have to work a little harder to make sure that they understand. So someone asked me, said, Dr. Elders, when all these people were out fighting you and lobbying against you, I said, so how did you feel? Didn't you make you feel bad? I said, no. I said, the one thing that I always felt is that they just didn't understand. And I had to keep working a little harder to make sure they learned. I'd like to tell you a story about one of our state legislators one time. He was a minister and a rather fundamentalist church, and he said, Dr. Elders, I just don't understand all this stuff you're talking about. And I don't believe this. You see, he was a pastor of a rather upper income, all white city church, and he didn't understand the poor, primarily black women in the Delta who didn't have the kinds of upbringing and the training and everything. And he said, I'd like to come down and spend a day with you. I said, no, Senator, you can't come and spend a day with me. I said, you have to spend a week. I said, because you are a slow learner. But you know, I want to tell you, he did. He came. He didn't spend a week, but he did spend about, I would say, 2.5 days. You know, sometimes you have to go and go back. But the next year, he was voted the most improved senator. Once you've gone and seen, nobody have to explain it to you anymore. You know, when you see the suffering and see the pain and see everything that's going on, and I was told him that I was never about abortions. That I was about preventing unplanned pregnancies. And to prevent unplanned pregnancies, there is never a need for an abortion. Because I've never known a woman to need an abortion that was not already pregnant. So let's understand the real realities of what's going on. And before we start arguing so vehemently to make a difference. And of course, I was a strong advocate for sexuality education. I felt that we needed to educate our young people. They said, oh, but Dr. Elders, we don't have time for that. We've got to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. How can you teach reading, writing, and arithmetic to people who aren't physically, emotionally, and psychologically fit? We've got to teach them how to take care of themselves. We've got to believe in the HER principle. The HER principle is we've got to be honest with ourselves, our children, and our community. We've got to empower our young people with the knowledge so they can make decisions. And for the R in the HER principle, how can they be responsible if we've not taught them how? So I feel that teaching our children, I think their sexuality education needs to be abstinence-based. But abstinence only, we've shown, does not work.